Welcome to A Right We Blether.
Where you get to listen in on candid, casual, and occasionally clever conversations with Daniel and Christina Sukup.
So what is a blether?
A blether. Well, my understanding is that a blether is a chat about anything and everything, usually something inconsequential. What do you think?
Well, I think that you should ask me why we chose to name our podcast A Right We Blether.
That's a great idea. Why did we choose A Right We Blether?
Well, we thought it was a right cute saying. So my Scottish grandmother, Ina Scobie,
Yes.
and my mom will talk about phone conversations, and they'll call them A Right We Blether.
Yeah.
So we thought it was nice and gave us less pressure on our podcast to always say something important.
There you go. Or deeply insightful. We're just going to get on here and chat. Get on here and talk.
Yep.
But for our first podcast, we wanted to introduce ourselves. Just give an overview of our life together.
Yeah.
So we did say our names, right?
We did.
Yeah.
We did in the intro.
Great. So you're Daniel.
I am Daniel Sukup.
I'm Christina.
The nasally voice. The nasally voice is Daniel.
There you go. The symphonic, sweet voice is Christina. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah. So when did we met? When did we met? When and where did we meet?
We met each other in 2021. No, 2011.
2011.
Yeah, 2011. Not 2021.
Makes us. We're starting to sound old.
Yeah. So you were in your sophomore year in college.
Yep. Yes, I was we were at BCS, Bethlehem College and Seminary.
That's right.
In Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yep. And I was starting my freshman year, so I was a year behind you.
And how were classes going for you when we met?
Well, when we met, I was distraught over the workload. I was in the student lounge, and you popped your head in the door and asked, how are things going? Because I was wearing my emotions on my sleeve and looked distraught.
And then I said, it doesn't get any better, but you get used to it.
That's right.
And you were crushed by that, right?
No. Yeah, no, it was a pessimistic thing of you to say, but I was actually encouraged because you weren't sugarcoating it. You were just saying reality. So,
which goes to show that God can use even cynicism to.
Oh boy, that's right.
To work His purposes.
He can.
And we started dating on the spot, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but we did correspond over Christmas break about poetry, about William Cooper. And then when we came back to school in January, you hosted a hymn sing.
I did, didn't
and your intention behind that hymn sing was to get partially. That's
my intention
good clarification.
Partially.
Oh yeah, worship of the triune God was one intention. And then you took that opportunity to get alone with me after the hymn sing by walking me out to my car. And
I'm glad you added that. That sounded like that could have gone less than honorable direction.
Oh, it was very honorable. Yeah, and then you honorably asked if I would consider getting to know you for the intention of seeing if marriage was a viable option.
Which was just wildly romantic and subtle of me.
I mean, it was romantic. It was awkward, but I really appreciated it because you stated your intentions very clearly. And then I went home and proceeded to not respond. Well, I said, I'll think about it, right? I didn't say anything right then, yes or no. Yeah. I said, I'll think about it. And then I did not get back to you for like 4 days, I think.
Oh, it was longer. It was at least a week.
Oh, I remember it was 4 days. But anyway, I emailed you.
It felt like an eternity.
Also very unromantic. I emailed you and said, yes, let's get to know each other. So that was the beginning.
Yeah.
So we started dating, and that was also a combination of romantic and awkward.
Yes.
It was good.
Yeah, so I remember we had a window at the end of the hallway by the vending machines in the lockers.
At school.
We would stand in the window and talk about things like, what are your views on birth control?
That's right. Homeschooling or, not homeschooling. Yeah.
And didn't your dad give us like a questionnaire or something?
Yeah, he had a questionnaire for
Like
you.
Piper's
Yep.
list of questions to ask.
Right. So we got down to business talking about important things because we weren't really interested in. I wasn't as interested. I don't know. I think both of us. I think you would have taken it
As
more
interested
slowly.
in what?
Sorry. Yeah. We were not interested in just casual dating, basically.
Yeah. We had both previously been in some relationship, and we had both had the feeling of, if we're going to be dating, we want to be intentional and thinking about, are we the sort of people that would be good to be married to each other?
Yeah, right. So we talked about important things for compatibility, basically. So those were some of the awkward conversations. There were plenty of, I guess, just fun, sweet times as well as we got to know each other. I remember one time that we went and got ice cream in sort of the Glen Lake area by my parents' house, and I kind of remember that day as being summed up as the magic of ordinary days, like with you. That's a movie title, The Magic of Ordinary Days. But I love that idea because it was just a simple date, simple walk through the park, got ice cream, and then we just talked. And I mean, we were just friends by that point. We were sweet friends, and so that was sort of the foundation, I think, of us going into marriage, is that we had really become friends.
Yeah. The moment I remember, we were outside of Carlson Hall, laying under a tree, looking up through the leaves.
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of the dappled light. That was kind of the moment that stuck out for me, of like, oh, we can kind of take a deep breath from the intense conversations, but also like it doesn't have to be smotheringly romantic all the time.
Right. Yep.
And I think that was, for me, that moment and that realization of like, oh, we're friends. Kind of similar to what you said, kind of that foundation for the relationship.
Yeah, and we've talked about sort of a triad of sort of what our relationship is, or the different aspects of our relationship being friendship, and then like our romantic relationship, and then brother and sister in Christ. So those three aspects. And if we're only focusing on one of those, then things can get lopsided. So, okay. Any other thoughts on our dating career? I mean, our dating season, just you and me together.
Yeah, well,
it was successful. I mean, we decided we were compatible.
Yeah, and it would have been successful if we would have decided we weren't compatible.
That's right. Yep, it would have been a successful dating experience. We would have made a good decision making the good decision.
And I think we had some of those thoughts and doubts along the way. Yeah.
But there was something that was just too good to let go of. So we chased it until we got it.
Well, Barb Waldemar said that you had the best smile. So I was chasing the best smile at BCS.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, and there were depths in you that I just didn't have enough time to mine. So I thought, well, let's just make this a lifetime project. So you proposed. Where did you propose?
I did propose.
To me.
To you, yes. I proposed marriage to you.
Yes.
We were at it was January of 2014. The frigid, frozen, snow-covered north of Minnesota. we went to the Como Conservatory, where all the lush green,
That's right. Yes.
beautiful plants.
Tropical indoor environment in
Yes.
a harsh winter.
And it was very busy. I remember
Yes.
getting there and thinking, uh-oh,
Where am I going to propose?
where am I going to propose?
Yeah.
And so I had written you a poem, and it was not immediately obvious that the poem was a proposal.
That's right.
And so we were wandering around. I think you knew something was up, because Mike and Jesse were with us, and
Sort of like a double date sort of thing.
yeah, but and they were in on it, and
Yep.
they ditched us almost immediately. And I think that was one of the things that tipped you off that something was up. Also, I was super crazy nervous.
Yes, I knew you were not your normal self. You were ready for something.
And so we sat down on a bench in the area with the birds and the fish, kind of the like tropical animal kind of area.
Yeah.
And I read you the poem, and you really liked it, and you were confused because
Yeah, I didn't catch. So it's an acrostic poem, and I did not catch the acrostic. That first go, right?
Yeah, the first
Is that
go.
right? Yeah. It was very sweet. I liked it, but I didn't catch the acrostic.
Yeah, and so and also it
Or
was
the secret message
it was
that was hidden in the first line, the first letter of each line.
also there were a lot of people walking by, so it wasn't a good time to explain that.
Right. On your end.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
So you knew something was up. You knew it was probably a proposal.
Yes.
I presented you with a very romantic poem
Yeah.
that was not immediately clear that it was a proposal, and so that was confusing. And we wandered around some more, and we wound up over in the was it the fern room?
Yeah,
What do they call it?
something like it was. Yeah, very green.
Yeah, lots of ferns, and there were a couple paths through the ferns, and there was a little fake river running through it with some rocks. And there was the main walk through, and then there was like this little sidewalk, and there was nobody on the sidewalk.
Yes.
And so I took us over there. It was as secluded as you could be at the Como Conservatory on January 1st.
That's right.
And I pulled the poem back out, and I forget exactly what I said.
You just kind of like you pointed out the first letters.
Yeah, it's like
and
there's a
pointed
feature
out.
to this
Oh yeah.
poem. And what it spelled out was, "Will you marry me?"
That's right.
And I spelled Mary, Merry, as a poetic double meaning.
That's right. A double entendre.
And there were lines in the poem that played on merry hearts, making one another merry, something like that.
Yeah.
And so Christina read it.
That would be me. I read it.
Yes. That's what I said.
I know, but you're talking to me.
I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
You read it.
We're talking to you listeners as well.
Yeah, I'm drawing them in.
There you go. Good job. I read it.
And was quiet for a few moments. Yeah. And what did you say to me?
Oh, well, so yes, I saw the Merry, Merry, and I was like, okay, I think I know what he's asking. But I'm like, I need to make sure because this is not the actual like way to spell Mary. So I just asked for clarification because, it's kind of an important thing to say yes or no to. So
You wanted to understand terms and conditions
Yeah.
before checking the box.
right. So you just explained that, yeah, you were asking me to marry you and also to make you happy.
Yes.
And then I said yes with everything that I am.
And there was a ring.
Oh, yeah, there was a ring. There was a ring. So, all right, we're already 15 minutes in, so I think we should move along.
Nah.
We got engaged. That was lovely. And poetry has been a big part of our relationship, so that's just a sweet thing. We got married.
We did get married.
Yep.
We got married 5 months later.
Yep. In May of 2014. Almost 11 years ago now.
Almost 11 years ago. Yeah. It is
April 27th.
April 27th.
Right
so in a month
2025.
and 3 days.
Yeah, and we had lilacs in our wedding. It was beautiful. It smelled amazing. And the lilacs here in France, now where we are, this spring are blooming and smelling wonderful and reminding me of our anniversary. So
I remember you having a moment with your lilacs, you describing a moment you had with your lilacs, holding them.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we had our friend and Pastor Tom Steller officiate our wedding, and I remember standing up on the stage and listening to Pastor Tom give his little sermon on Psalm 34, which was our wedding text. And I'm sure those of you listening who are married can relate. Your wedding day is like a wonderful day, but also a stressful and like, what's the word?
Busy.
Tiresome. Like you're tired when you're standing up there. I'm sure most people at their wedding are just not like in their prime, like, oh, just woke up from a lovely nap. So anyway, yes. So I was standing there and just trying, like I was telling myself, I want to be in the moment and I want to remember this. I don't want to just like not focus. And I noticed as I was trying to tune in and be present and experience the moment, I noticed an inchworm on my bouquet of lilacs. This little green inchworm, so cute, tiny, just inching along the stem. And it was just that particular, the presence of that particular little inchworm that just like drew me into the moment, like the reality and the physicality and the uniqueness of that moment. And so that was really sweet. Yeah. And I mean, I do remember a lot of that day, and our first kiss was at the altar, and that was really sweet. So anyway,
And it wasn't a lame little peck.
you did a great job. No, it was a perfect, not too long, not too short.
It wasn't awkwardly long. I've been at weddings where the kisses,
Yep.
it's awkward.
That's right. You don't want that.
No, I am very awkward, but that was a successful, non-awkward moment.
Good job. So and then you carried me down the aisle. You picked me up and carried me down the aisle, and so it was a great day. There were so many.
People really liked that.
Yeah, there were so many people there to help us celebrate and start our life together. So then we started married life, and we were living in an apartment in Minneapolis, and we were finishing up college.
Yeah.
You had one more year left, and I had at least one class at my Greek.
Yeah, you had one class. That was I had taken 2 part-time years, so that was my first year back full-time in college. I wasn't working for part of that year.
Mm-hmm. I was working. I was teaching.
Yeah, you were
music.
Teaching.
Right, teaching violin and piano. Yeah.
It was a good year, and it was a hard year.
That's right. Yeah. We felt like there were a lot of just the external pressures of doing school while being married and figuring out relationship and communication. And I was busy teaching and, even just figuring out running a home together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we grew a lot, and it was hard, but it was good.
We had some undiagnosed health stuff that was going on that made that harder. We had some friends go through some really hard things that we were involved with. I think there was some spiritual warfare going on. We really struggled with communication. I think that was probably...
Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense looking back. But we grew a lot in that year, and we just sort of decided that it wasn't an option for us to not communicate. Yeah. And so it was difficult, but we did it.
Yeah. I remember times where you needed specificity.
Yes.
And what I needed to do was go for a 10-minute walk.
Yes.
And come back and talk about it.
Right. And you didn't necessarily recognize that at the time. Yes.
No, I didn't. So I'm an extreme internal processor.
Yes.
And you are.
Yeah, maybe
not that extreme,
but I'm definitely external processor.
Yeah. And so that communication style difference caused some friction
Yeah.
that we had to work through, and we're much
We're so much better.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we moved, well, we graduated.
We graduated.
But before we graduated, I got pregnant with our first kid.
That's right.
Because I walked across the aisle to receive my diploma with a baby in my belly.
Yeah.
And that was Elizabeth Elaine. So we graduated together, same year. Me with my associates, you with your bachelor's.
Yep.
In 2015. And then we moved before we had Elizabeth.
And where did we move?
Well, there was an opening for a basement apartment.
And who rented that ahead of us?
Oh, our friends, the Barclays.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they were a big part of that part of our life.
Yes, definitely. They were our mentors in college. And yeah, they were great, good friends. And they were moving on, and they spoke with their landlords and were like, hey, there's this young couple. They need a place to live. And the landlords were like, sure, move on in. And who were those landlords, Daniel?
Well, it was a feller named John. And his wife's name was Noelle.
That's
and
right.
their last name was Piper.
That's right. Yeah, we got to live underneath John and Noelle Piper. That was pretty special.
My expression with my hands got a lot more.
Oh, man.
I don't know that it
No,
did.
no, it didn't. No, it didn't. But man, we did treasure those years. It was 4 years that we spent.
Yeah, we were there for 4 years.
We rented from them for 4 years.
We would have dinner with them occasionally.
Yeah.
They were wonderful
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah, wonderful to get to know more. So, I mean, Pastor John has been a big part of our spiritual life since before we moved into that apartment. So we had obviously known about him and benefited from his ministry. We were at BCS, in large part because of his ministry and his connection to Bethlehem and BCS.
I would say outside of my parents, he was probably one of the biggest influences in how I think.
Yeah. And for me, just he helped me a lot in my later teen years and early 20s in just thinking more. I think maybe just to mention one specific thing is just like connecting head and heart, connecting kind of the emotional experience with the truth of Scripture, and asking the hard questions and going to Scripture and having answers that fit with my experience and reality was so helpful. So, so he's a father in the faith for both of us, and it was a gift to be able to get to know him a little bit more in real life, in person, and get to know him as just sort of a normal guy. Someone who goes and mows his lawn, and someone who goes on runs, and I don't know, watches our pet fish when we go on vacation.
Our poor fish.
Oh man,
he was so diligent.
He was so attentive when we were giving him instructions on how to take care of, what was it, Agassiz?
Agassiz. It was a beta.
A beta fish. Yeah.
He cared for it much better than we did.
Oh, I mean, we were okay, but yeah, it didn't survive. So we did live there. It was a small little apartment, not a ton of natural light, but we had 2 children there. So Elizabeth was born in the fall of 2015.
That's right.
And then you took a gap year. You were working at Teen Challenge. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, so I finished college, and I think I was burned out. College was great, but I needed some time away from study, so I decided I was going to just work for 2 years. And there was an opening at Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge for an admin position that was half client facing, half by myself, and that was about the perfect balance. And I got to it was a really, really sweet time. I got to kind of see men specifically in the building I was in turn their lives around. I got to see the power of the gospel, the power of God in Christ through the Holy Spirit to make real change. And there were moments I got to see it real time. Faces and names that I will never share because of
That's right.
HIPAA laws and all of that. But yeah, so that was a really sweet time. And if I didn't have other ministry aspirations, we would probably still be in Minneapolis, and I would probably be trying, at least working towards being a chaplain at Teen Challenge. But we had other things we wanted to do.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, I was still teaching music, and then you started seminary.
Yeah, well, we say we because it was a lot of work for you.
Yeah. Yep. We do. It was a joint effort. We went through seminary. Daniel went to classes, and I stayed home with children and taught music, and held down the fort.
I don't know if other seminaries do this, but at graduation, BCS has the wives stand up and recognize the wives, and that's, I think, appropriate.
Yeah, it's sweet.
The amount of work that some wives do. So started seminary in 2017.
Where did you go to seminary?
I went to seminary at Bethlehem College and Seminary.
Isn't that where you went to college?
It is.
Okay.
I was practically a piece of furniture.
Yes.
Like I would have people ask me like, what program are you in? How long? You've been here a while, haven't you? I'm like, yes, I have.
Yep. So we were just around Bethlehem Baptist Church in Minneapolis. That's where all the classes were held for several years. Well, like
it was
by
about
the
a
time,
decade.
by the time you were done, it was about a decade. So you got a lot of discipleship in that context. So you started seminary, and then our second child was born. So William.
Did you name our first
I
child?
did. Okay. Yes. Elizabeth Elaine.
Elaine.
Our very sweet, creative firstborn. And then William was born right after Daniel started seminary.
Yeah, like a week or two in.
Yes. Like in August. Yep, August 25th is his birthday. And so, William Bradley.
And that first year of seminary was a wild ride.
Yep.
I had just gotten diagnosed with IBS.
Yep.
William had severe eczema.
Yep.
I was working overnights at security.
Yes.
At one point, I was drinking 72 ounces of coffee a day.
Yep. He doesn't recommend that.
No, I don't. I had like borderline hallucinations.
Right. Yep. But we made it. We made it to, midway through seminary.
Yeah. So I did 1 year at the security company. I started teaching driver's ed.
That's right.
And that fit as well as any job can fit with seminary. That was probably a really, really good fit.
Yeah.
So
training the next generation to
not run into light poles.
Not run into light posts and be safe on the road. And you had a few close calls.
I did. I did.
You had to reach over and grab the wheel and step on your brake on your passenger side.
I used the passenger side brake every lesson, every single. Every single lesson. I had students
just
say,
kind of tap it.
No. Every time, every lesson. I had students make it their goal to get through a lesson without me using the brake, and I would just tell them, I said, that's not going to happen. I use the brake, and it's not just me being a jerk. It needed to happen every lesson.
Okay. Yeah.
But so anyway. Where were we?
Well, so you were teaching there, and then seminary. We had to.
So halfway through seminary, my health hit a breaking point, and we just had to slow down. So I basically stopped seminary. I was taking one class per semester. This was in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
So it was online, so I wasn't even going to campus. And we focused on getting my health back on track. And it was hard, but there was a lot that was really sweet about that time. We got to spend a lot of time together.
Right, yeah, because you were home.
I was home. I was going absolutely crazy because of lockdowns,
Right.
but there's a certain, I don't know, like brightness to that season. Some of that was just the environment. It was a beautiful location.
Oh, yes, because we had moved. We didn't mention that.
We did, yeah. We moved to South Lakeville. Like
Yes. Almost.
compared to Minneapolis, it was almost Iowa.
That's right. We were right. We went to the Elko New Market Library.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was right before we had. Oh, sorry. You finished saying there was a certain brightness because it was a
Yeah.
really beautiful location. So we were in the country.
We were out in the country. We were renting part of a house, and it was on like 5 acres. So
Yeah.
the kids could just like go out in the woods and play. Mm-hmm. And so
And there was like a brook out front.
we were between two small streams.
Yeah, there was one out in the forest that
We named it Middlebrook. Or
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Middlebrook. That's right.
No, that's the name of the Farmington.
Middle Creek. It's Farmington.
Oh, yes. So we named. We had a habit of naming our homes when we had something that worked.
So yeah, Middlebrook was
Middlebrook.
Lakeville,
Yeah.
the house in the country, and yeah. So we
So sometime in there, a man named Diodne Tomfu came to the seminary to present a ministry in Yaoundé, Cameroon. It was a church plant, a BCS extension site, and a printing
ministry.
And so he presented to the freshmen and the sophomores, the first and second years. And I remember when I had known Diodne previously and his wife, Dominique. I'd taken a class from him in college. I'd been in a small group with his wife before they were married. And so there was a personal connection, and Diodne is good friends with Tom Steller, who's a family friend and was a pastor for us for a season. And I remember really wanting to be involved, feeling my heart drawn to it. And so I approached Diodne after the presentation, and I told him, we'll pray about it.
Yeah,
Because I know myself, I want to go and help everywhere.
that's right. Well, you hear a need and you're drawn toward meeting needs.
Yeah. And I was also having the health issue, so I didn't know, we weren't sure whether or not I was even going to finish seminary.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I wasn't thinking I should commit to this overseas ministry when I'm like, I can't even finish an academic program here in the States. So that happened during that time, and we prayed about it, and it was about 2 years before we talked to anybody about it. And so that would have been October of 21. We sent out our first update, our first newsletter.
Our first family ministry newsletter, kind of talking about, hey, there's this Cameroon thing that we are interested in, and I mean, to give a little bit more context to that, we were wanting to be in ministry, some sort of ministry. I mean, you were in seminary because you felt a burden for just discipleship and helping people. You weren't sure if it would be a pastoral role or more of a teaching role, like more the academia route. But you knew that you wanted to be in some sort of ministry. And so we had talked about like church planting or, maybe you helping out with a youth group. But when this opportunity in Cameroon came up, that kind of settled in our minds and hearts.
And we were lost on the what was it, the Lake Superior hiking trail.
Oh yeah, so this is celebrating 5 years of marriage.
We were in Grand Marais.
We went to Grand Marais, and so that would have been right after. Well, that's fine. We can. That's fine.
So
we don't need to place it.
To tie it in, we were talking.
Yeah.
We were on a hike talking about, is this what we want to do?
Yeah.
And it was mostly me being angsty.
That's right. And me being a sounding board.
And Christina being a sounding board. And I was like, we like literally just picked this thing. Like we didn't fast and pray. We didn't like
And we were
have
praying, but
yeah,
yeah,
we
it
were
wasn't
we were
like,
praying about it, but we didn't do any of the like stereotypical missionary like you have a moment where God calls you kind of things.
to
And
this
I don't
people group in this country.
yeah.
And yep.
And I don't necessarily expect that, so I don't know why that was such a big deal for me. But it did really just feel like we just picked this. And so we went on a hike and we started on the wrong end of the parking lot. And we walked for
Forever.
an hour up this trail, and it kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until we're like walking on like stamped down like scrub brush.
We're like, I think
Like,
we are
I
now
don't-
on a tier trail.
Yeah, I don't think this is, I don't see anything that looks like Devil's Kettle Falls. And so we got on the GPS somehow because there was like no cell service, but we got like, a
compass.
tiny bit of data made its way through, and we're like, oh yeah, we're not anywhere near where we're supposed to be. So we turned around and back. We weren't actually like lost, but we just
Yeah.
went the wrong direction.
Yep.
And I remember really being settled after that
Right.
about
Both of us. Yeah, me too.
excuse me, I'm sorry for all the coughing.
Yeah.
I remember that one of the images we used was like if your kid comes to you and says, hey dad, hey mom, can I go play? And you're like, yeah, go play. And they look at you and they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? You're like, well, whatever you want. And that's what it felt like with God. It was like it didn't feel like he felt the need to direct what we did as long as what we did was lawful and helpful and a good fit.
Yeah. Kind of within his general mission and will.
Yeah. And so we both really felt a freedom to not have that like sky opening up story, or like writing on the wall or, and that's not to denigrate people who have that experience. It just wasn't how God called us to Cameroon.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We just felt an increasing sort of just settled desire. And then we would pray regularly, like, God, please keep opening the doors.
Yeah.
And then, there were some obstacles, but they weren't sizable enough to where we felt like God was actually closing the door. It felt like this is something we need to persevere through and trust God with, and keep moving this direction. And he kept making it possible.
And trusting the process, that we had to go through a lot of assessments to get there. So like TLI had to say, or Training Leaders International is our sending agency. They had to say yes.
Right.
Our sending church had to say yes.
South Cities Church in
South Cities
Lakeville, Minnesota.
Yeah, so there were a number of gates we had to walk through where we were being interviewed and assessed for fitness and character and skills and all of those things. And we had been at South Cities for a long time at that point, so they knew us really well.
Yeah. So we kind of got those, those open doors. So that was sort of like our beginning, the beginning of our journey toward moving overseas. But kind of back to Lakeville and our home in the country, and Daniel getting better that year that you took off. You got quite a bit better with your health, and then you resumed seminary and wrapped up. And so we had a third kid.
We did have a third kid.
We had a sweet Brooke, Evangeline. And we named her Brooke with Psalm 1 in mind, the tree planted by rivers of water, but also those brooks at our home there in the country. So she was born in 2019, and at that point I was still teaching, but also homeschooling the kids. So, yeah. All right. And then you wrapped up seminary.
I wrapped up seminary. I graduated.
Yep.
I walked that stage.
That's right.
But before I walked the stage,
Oh, yeah. We're missing 2 parts. We moved again.
we moved again. We moved 10 minutes away to Farmington, Minnesota, to a 2-bedroom townhome
Yes.
for
Yep.
all 5 of us.
Yeah.
So Christina and I were in one room. Brooke was never in with us, right?
I don't even remember.
She was in that that crib,
Yeah.
that gigantic crib.
Yeah.
That like ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk. She would like grab I think all of our kids did this. They would like grab the edge of it and like shake the whole crib. And so like there's a certain sound that it's not PTSD, but like it's like
That sound.
that sound like makes me tense up.
Yes. So we had, yeah, it was good. Again, yeah, I was just doing the homeschooling music teaching thing, and you wrapped up seminary. And right before you wrapped up seminary, what else did we do?
Right after. Oh, no,
No, it was before.
Right
January,
before. Yeah.
January of 2022, we took a trip. Just Daniel and I. The kids went with family and stayed with them while we did something.
We flew to Yaoundé, Cameroon, and we got to see the ministry location and spend some time with the Tomfus and get to meet some of the missionary community in Yaoundé. There's a large missionary community there. We toured an apartment.
That's right.
Kind of on a whim. We met the principal of one of the local schools. We were touring the schools. We planned to homeschool, but we thought it would be wise to make connections with the schools and see what's available.
Yeah.
In case we ended up needing to send one of our kids to school if we weren't able to help them in the ways they needed to be helped, or they needed more structured social connections or whatever. And we'll just put a pin in that.
That's right.
We toured this.
We toured this apartment.
Just remember that.
Hold that thought.
Hold that thought.
Yeah, so we did spend about a week in Cameroon, and that was also part of sort of us feeling settled about moving forward.
And how did you feel ahead of that trip?
Do you mean like a certain
like
color,
emotionally,
like a certain tint to my glasses, like a
yeah. I mean, you don't wear glasses.
I don't wear glasses. No, I don't. I think I might have had a little bit of the rose-colored glasses.
Yes, and
view.
Whatever
on Cameroon.
Whatever the opposite of rose-colored glasses are.
That's what I had when we were done.
That's what I had when we started.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Christina was like, "This is amazing. This is gonna be." I don't remember what.
I mean, I was probably just my usual optimistic self.
Yeah, and I was like, "This is gonna suck."
You were your usual cynical self.
Yeah, and we got on the ground, and I was like, "This is not nearly as bad as I thought this was." And Christina was like, "Oh boy,
this is gonna be hard," but not insurmountable for me.
Yeah, and I remember on the way back, we were sitting. I don't remember which airport we were sitting in. We used I used two analogies to kind of figure out how we were thinking and feeling about it. One was green light, yellow light, red light, because I could sense that you were not excited about
I wasn't feeling very green light about it.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't a green light, and so I asked, "Is this a red light or is this a yellow light?" And I had. This is where the other image comes in. I had given you, like, I'm driving. We're complementarian.
That's right. Spoiler.
I'm responsible to lead the family. I've got my hand on the steering wheel, my foot on the gas, my foot ready to go on the brake.
There you go.
But you can tell, like, what is all of my time being spent doing, that these analogies come.
Right.
I'm driving.
You were a driving instructor.
I was a driving instructor. So these are the analogies I reach for.
You have your pinky on the blinker and your pointer on the radio button.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
But I had said, Christina can pull the e-brake at any time. Like, if she says, I can't do this, And I made it clear it wasn't like a pious, holy, like, oh, anytime you can say no. Like, there was no pressure of like, you know, anytime you want to disrupt God's will for our life.
Oh, right.
It was I labored to make it clear this is a real veto. And so in my mind, red light, e-brake, and at that point, it was like orange.
I think I probably said yellow.
You said yellow.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like I was sensing like this is pretty close to red.
Well, I think, well, part of it was connected to touring those schools. And even though we were clear that we were planning on homeschooling, I think my brain was in those school tours, and I was feeling this like sense of losing my dream of homeschooling. So,
Yeah.
which, I mean, that's sort of an aside, but that draws out just something that's really important to me is raising our children. And I love spending time with them, and I really do enjoy homeschooling them and just learning and growing with them. So yeah, anyway, so it was yellow light, and then we processed more, and it felt more like a green light
Yeah.
for me. So
And I think we both, like, for both of us, it was like a sobering up.
yeah, right,
Like,
right.
For me, it was like, okay, life in Cameroon can be good.
Like it's feasible.
It's feasible.
It feels feasible for our family.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, this is going to be difficult, and that's good. It's good for me to be sober about that. Yeah. So we kind of flip flopped, like beginning of the trip, end of the trip, but it was really good. So then you did finish seminary finally.
Seminary. Praise
Keep
the
saying
Lord.
that. Yes, there was much rejoicing. And then our fourth child was born. I was actually pregnant on that Cameroon trip with
right.
Charlotte. Charlotte was born in June of 2022, and yeah, she's wonderful. So we have 4 children, and their ages now are Elizabeth is 9, William is 7, Brooke is 5, and Charlotte is 2.5. So after you finished seminary, we started support raising.
We started support raising, yeah. And we had kind of technically started support raising during seminary.
Yeah.
But
In earnest, we began.
Yeah, the most we were doing was sending out updates every few months.
Yeah. So we were working with Training Leaders International at this time, or by that point, and they appointed us as like prospective global partners.
And what was our first goal? Do you remember?
Our first like goal for like a launch date. Is that what you mean?
Wasn't it that fall?
You mean 2022?
Fall of
It must have been 2023.
It must, yeah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't 22, but I think 2023 we were hoping to leave.
We said France by fall
France by fall, yep.
of
23. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And then that didn't happen.
We were at like 15% of our support raise goal.
I mean, we were the classic optimistic. You know, we're going to the field. We're gonna raise this support. But I mean, it was support raising was a good experience. We got to meet a lot of people. We were warmly received by so many, and even those who weren't able to give financially, many of them, added us to their prayer lists and were at real encouragement and support along the way.
Yeah, I think some of my most encouraging meetings were no's.
Yeah, people who knew what they could do and were honest about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we didn't make that first target date, and then
our
December.
dates had to line up with when the language program here in France started. So
Yep.
we have to learn French to go to Cameroon, because Cameroon's a French-speaking nation. So we're spending a year in France, and so our launch date had to be like right ahead of when the
language program started.
when the language program started, which is they take new students in September and January. So we didn't make that September, and so we thought, well, we can make it by January.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
I quit my job basically.
Well, this was the next year,
No,
2024.
no. I quit at the driving school
In 23?
in 23.
Okay.
I went down to like one shift a week.
Oh, yes.
So I was
okay.
I was teaching one day a week, and we're
It's
like,
all coming back.
we're gonna
Just kidding.
we're gonna make it by the end of December.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And we didn't.
No.
And the driving school could not rent my hours back.
Yes, that's
And
right.
so I had to quit at the driving school.
Yep.
Which was like, uh-oh, now what?
No.
Like, we're trying to leave the country, and now I have to do
You need to
job
get a
interviews.
job.
I have to get a job and tell them, like, I could be gone in 3 months.
Yeah.
Because once I went on staff with TLI, I was going to quit, and we were going to do full-time support raising.
Yep.
So once we got to a certain percentage, they would bring us on salary so that we could devote all of our time to preparing to leave. And so I interviewed at a landscaping tree removal company, and they were like, yeah, sure, we can take you on as a seasonal.
So yeah, that was December of 2023.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I worked there for a year.
Almost. Yep.
Almost an entire year.
Right. Yep. Because then again, our next target date was fall again of 2024.
And we didn't make
And
it.
we didn't make it. Which is just to say that the Lord wanted to, like, he was teaching us patience, and he knew exactly what he was doing in our timeline. But it took us about a total of 2.5-ish years to support raise.
Which was right on schedule for what we had been told to expect.
Right. A lot of other missionaries take about that amount of time as well.
And I think one thing that came out of that season for me was two things: to have my eyes open for why might God have us tarry. Like he's clearly telling us not yet. And we had some friendships and some family relationships that we really got to invest some intentional time in during that season. And I think part of it was that, and it's hard to read God's providence, but one tiny little piece I think I could speculate about was there were people that needed us, that we were providing a level of support emotionally and practically that for us to pull out would have been a bad time.
Yeah.
And so seeing how that played out, I was thankful.
Right.
I was thankful to God for how he saw fit to arrange that timeline. But the other thing was, I forget the exact verse, but he created us in Christ Jesus to walk in good works that he prepared, or there's a reference to good works that he prepared beforehand for us to walk in. And so we really tried to have our eyes open for, like, okay, there are good works that we're supposed to do here in Farmington or in Egan where I was working. It's like, okay, what are the good works I'm supposed to be doing right now?
Today.
Yeah. So faithfulness isn't just, well, we'll be faithful once we're in Cameroon. That's when we'll do our ministry.
Right.
It's like, no, God has ministry for me in France, or for me in Egan, for you at home with the with the neighbors. Once we moved to France, there's good works for us to do here in France. And I'm going to do the super didactic, probably cheesy thing and say to our 0 listeners, our 1 listener,
whoever you are,
whoever ends up listening to this, like, God has good works for you to do where you're at.
What are the good works that God has called you to today? That's the question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we did grow. I think for me, I did grow in being just a little less maybe presumptuous. I remember talking with our Pastor Dave, when we had our timeline delayed yet again, the fall of 2024, we had to delay again. And then when we did actually finally launch, it was December of last year, 2024. Anyway, but I was talking with our pastor about, just what is God teaching me. And I thought that I was like, well, I feel like sort of have this patience thing down. Like, I feel like I'm pretty good at waiting. But I said, maybe like what I realized is just that I was presuming even just on the opportunity to go. And I was presuming on God that like, well, of course we get to do this. It's just a matter of when. And I felt like God was teaching me like, no, this is like, you need to stop presuming. This is all a gift. This is all, something that is a privilege. It's a privilege. And kind of along the lines of what you were saying is just the privilege is to follow Christ every day, to follow God in what he's given us to do that day. So yeah, that's good. It's good.
I think another piece was we had to write updates to our supporters and tell them we're not going.
That was hard.
That was hard.
Yeah.
And so, excuse me. And so Christina just tried to touch screen my computer where we have our notes.
Woo.
And probably left a
fingerprint.
A fingerprint.
So sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I have lost my train of
Well,
thought
you were
completely.
saying it was hard to have to write our supporters and say, sorry, not yet.
Yeah, and so that was an emotional struggle, but how many of them were like, come on, Sukups, what are you doing?
Right, no, they were like, yeah, no, they weren't like that.
No, like we had a ton of awesome cheerleaders who were like, all right.
Keep going. Yeah.
And so, like, just the little notes of encouragement we would get from people in response to our updates was really sweet.
Yeah. Yep. So we did. God provided, and with the help of many, many people, we did launch in December of last year. December 2024. We moved our family to France.
Yes, we are living in Albertville, in the Savoy region in France.
That's right.
We're in an alpine valley. We get to look at mountains.
We do.
We're in just a gorgeous chalet on the side of...
That part is going a little too far. We are not in a chalet. I mean, we could call it a chalet. It's an apartment. We're on the 4th floor of an apartment, and it's adequate.
It is adequate. Adequate is a good word. It is not a huge trial.
Oh no, it's good. We have a good situation. We have 3 bedrooms here, and so Elizabeth and William are in one, and Charlotte and Brooke and Charlotte are in the other. Daniel and I are in one, of course, where we are right now. And yeah, we have great natural light, and we have views of the mountains. Tonight there was a rainbow that was just beautiful, just coming out from behind one of the now very green mountains, green with trees that are, it's looking like summer almost. But yeah, so here we are. We're in Albertville to do what?
To learn French.
Right, and
eat delicious French pastries as often as we can.
Pain au chocolat as often as we can. No, learn French because, as Daniel said, Cameroon is a French-speaking country. And so even though Daniel will not be teaching in French, at least initially, it will be really important for us to know that language so that we can just live and communicate with people. And we're almost at an hour, but real quick, how's it going? What do you think about the French language?
I think that we can probably go into what language school looks like in another episode, but I think it's going well. It's a lot of work, but there's a lot of God is providing in a lot of really obvious and personal and really sweet ways. Yeah.
And our kids are doing well. They're in a French school here. Charlotte's in a nursery program at the language school. But yeah, so this is us. We wanted to do the first episode as just an overview of Daniel's and my relationship, Is that how you say that, babe?
Yeah, yeah. And would you say that we have had a right wee blether?
I don't know. All right. I mean, I think it's been. I don't know that it's been wee. I don't know that it's been small. It's almost an
Oh
hour.
yeah, I thought you meant we, like you and I. I was like, that we
No,
definitely both did.
it's been
Yeah,
a
isn't that-
right grand. Oh, see, there's my French pronunciation. A right large blether, but no, it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Some of it has been candid. Some of it has been casual. I don't know how much of it has been clever, but
That's right. Yeah, no, we've been dreaming of doing this podcast for what? A year, 2 years maybe. Just
yeah,
a little
probably.
bit.
It's been an idea we've batted around, and we bought this microphone.
We bought a microphone.
Probably about a year ago now, and we're like, because it was we were going to do it when we got back from our 10th anniversary
That's
trip.
right. That's
so it
right.
was about a year ago.
Yep. But such is life.
Which is like,
Parenthood
here we are.
and
We have done it.
moving overseas. So, all right. Well, hope you enjoyed the first episode. And
We will see you next time on A Right Wee Blether with the Soukups.
bye.
Bye.